And joining us now on Encounter is Colonel Charles Gallina, who is the Knights of Columbus Assistant for Military and Veterans Affairs. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And we're talking about the Warriors to Lourdes pilgrimage, and I wondered if you could just tell us a little bit about it first of all, and then we'll get into exactly the nuts and bolts of it.
Happy to. The Warriors to Lourdes pilgrimage is an opportunity for the Archdiocese of the Military Service and the Knights of Columbus to take wounded warriors, their caregivers, companions, and volunteers to Lourdes for healing and reconciliation in conjunction with the International Military Pilgrimage that happens annually. This coming May will be the 58th annual military pilgrimage, which represents the warring powers of France, Germany, the United States, Russia, England, at the end of World War II, coming together for peace, healing, and reconciliation after the devastation of World War II. In this year, there will be at least 35 to 40 nations represented, with about 12,000 military personnel. We bring, with the Warriors to Lourdes pilgrimage, about 200 wounded warriors, their companions, caregivers, and our KFC Knights of Columbus staff. There will be other U.S. Delegations from individual Catholic communities, military communities in Europe, but the Archdiocese of the Military Service and the Knights of Columbus Warriors to Lourdes is really the centerpiece of the American delegation for this international military pilgrimage.
Could you get into a little bit about the pilgrimage itself? What will pilgrims go through? What are some of the things that they experience during their time?
It is pretty much a very jam-packed pilgrimage from the time we fly them from 4 departure airfields in the United States. They arrive in Paris a day later, or in Lourdes the next day. They will then, that evening, we'll get them settled in. We'll have what we call a faith and fellowship session for the 4 flights that arrive on Wednesday. They will, and that is basically to give them some administrative instruction, but more importantly, to set the spiritual tone for the next 4 days in Lourdes. The next morning, the bus with 55 more pilgrims, military personnel will arrive from Germany at Kaiserslautern with our honor guard, color guard, and pilgrims and volunteers that will join us. That afternoon, there will be an opening mass for the Warriors to Lourdes pilgrimage. This year, we're blessed that Archbishop Broglio will be able to spend all 4 days with us, so he will celebrate that mass along with our Catholic chaplains that will join us for the pilgrimage. We anticipate 8 to 10 Catholic military chaplains and priests with us, as well as about 4 to 5 non-Catholic chaplains. That evening, we'll do faith and fellowship again for the whole group. The real PMI events, the International Military Pilgrimage events, then start on Friday. We'll have an opening American Mass. There will be a number of communities joining from Catholic communities throughout Europe so that we come together. Again, the Archbishop will celebrate the Mass. Following that Mass will be the opening ceremony for the International Military Pilgrimage. Then that evening, later in the evening, will be the blessing of the sick, as well as the Eucharistic adoration. Earlier in the day, on Friday in the morning, we will take the pilgrim, all of our 140 to 150 pilgrims, through the baths at Lourdes, which is, to me, the most sacred part of the pilgrimage, especially those wounded, one Army captain, amputee up to his hip, total paralysis, to be able to see him lowered into the healing waters of Lourdes, looking for not so much the physical healing, but the emotional and spiritual healing that comes with the experience in Lourdes. At the end of that day, which is quite a long day, Saturday morning, we will do the Stations of the Cross with the whole group. The group photos, which you always have to have one of those. And then we will have a Warriors to Lourdes reception that the Knights of Columbus hosts for our pilgrims, as well as we invite personnel from the other nations to join us for this reception. Typically, it'll be the chaplains and key personnel from particularly Great Britain, the UK, the Irish, Dutch, Germans, French, and any of those others that are there. That afternoon, there will be bands playing, military bands playing throughout the city. Saturday evening is the candlelight or the parade, or the procession, rather, the candlelight procession. And then Sunday morning is the International Mass. Sunday afternoon is the closing ceremony. Over those days, there's enough time built in the schedule where our pilgrims, accompanied by their caregivers and or our volunteers, can of course go back to the grotto, go back and visit with the Blessed Mother, take advantage of the beauty and dignity and sacred ground of the sanctuaries. And it makes for a remarkable 5 days. The transformation for the pilgrims is just dramatic. We close out Sunday evening with a final faith and fellowship session. Basically, what did you take out of here? How are you going to now take what you have experienced in Lourdes into your daily life?
And you've been involved with this, and what's it been like for you personally to see all this?
For me personally, it is in my mind my final mission. To be able as a Marine to take care of and to be part of the healing process of so many of our wounded military personnel, the suffering of their families who really exhibit the great sacrificial love that we talk about. For me personally, as a Marine officer, as a Catholic man, the spiritual uplifting that I get out of organizing and coordinating the entire effort is really, it's a life changer for me. It sets the tone for how I conduct my life. So this whole pilgrimage for me is this great strength I get from our wounded, our warriors, to see their spirituality, to see their Catholicity or Christianity. That makes everything and all of the processes worthwhile.
Well, we thank you, Colonel, for all your work, and we want to let people know too, if they want to support this, what could they do?
Kevin, the website with all of the information is www.warriorstolourdes.com. All of the information about the pilgrimage, the application, also the ability to donate online is contained on the website. Getting the word out to, especially for those military personnel who may be wounded or would benefit from the pilgrimage, but also donations to help offset and defray the cost. A great opportunity this past weekend. I was at a Knights of Columbus event in Delaware. The Delaware Knights passing the collection plate at Mass and at the dinner raised $2,700, which will actually cover the cost of a pilgrimage. And they're quite proud that Delaware will send one wounded warrior to Lourdes. So again, get the word out, pray for us, and then donations to help offset the cost. All of those really contribute to the healing process for our wounded.
Well, thank you so much, Colonel. Appreciate you spending some time with us.